About 81 million tons of hay with a market value of around $1 billion are produced annually in the United States. 1 out of every 5 acres in crops is hay. It's one of our biggest and most important crops. In harvested acreage, it is second only to corn. Yet we still make hay in about the same manner it was made in the times of the ancient pharaohs. We still depend on the weather. About the only difference is greater speed and less elbow grease. Replacing the old sickle or scythe, a Farmall mower cuts 25 acres in an 8-hour day. And Maud Muller would have spent hours raking the hay this outfit rakes in a few minutes. Even then, she couldn't have made windrows which sun and wind could dry as well as they can these. The loader is a great improvement over the old way of pushing it up on a pitchfork. In just a few minutes, a big load is on. Speed is doubly important when the hay is ready for the barn, for tomorrow's another day, and it may be raining. Up, 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 and away it goes. It's safe now from old man weather. Later on, it will be dug out and fed to stock, which will eat it, not because it's what they'd like, but because it's what they get. But scientists tell us it is a wasteful way. Listen to what the experts have to say about it.
It is pretty generally agreed by men who have studied the subject carefully that even under the most favorable conditions, about 25% of the feed value of the crops is lost in making hay. And this loss may even exceed 50% when the weather is unfavorable. Legumes and grasses are far richer before curing in protein than the best #1 cured hay. Protein is the highest priced feed element that farmers buy. Now, if the rains come along before the hay is in, it leaches out much of the valuable mineral content. Green matter is generally about twice as rich in phosphates and calcium as cured hay. Mineral deficiencies are responsible for many cases of malnutrition or actual disease, also for poor reproduction, for a high death rate among the young animals, for stunted growth, and for meager milk yields. Now, when the crop is made into hay, there's almost a total loss of carotene and vitamin A, which are responsible for growth and offer resistance to disease. Even under the most favorable condition, there is a serious loss of alfalfa leaves. Now, the leaves compose only about 45% of the weight of the plant, but 65% of the feed value. And finally, there are feeding wastes due to the lack of palatability and also to the poor digestibility of the crude fibers and stems after drying.
Summing it up, here is succulent, nutritious green alfalfa on the left, rich in proteins, minerals, and healthful vitamins, which has been reduced to an inferior feed in the form of hay on the right, simply because there hasn't been a satisfactory way to preserve it and retain all its most valuable feed components. To cut or not to cut, that's the question, and it's one every farmer has to answer several times each year. The first crop is usually ready to harvest during the season of late spring or early summer rains, and there is likely to be much extra work besides serious feed losses. As the farmer looks over his field of alfalfa, he wonders if he can save it, for he sees the rain clouds gathering. Well, you bet he can. Right now, this crop is in A1 condition to make into nutritious molasses silage. Regardless of weather, increasing numbers of farmers are now cutting their legume and grass crops in the early bloom stage and making them into silage. Only in recent years has this method of saving feed and escaping the hazards of early haymaking been practiced. Molasses silage is not only more palatable than hay, but retains practically all the feed value of the crops, and the usual 25 to 50% losses are avoided. The heavy-duty green crop loader makes a clean pickup from the swath or windrow, and only a few minutes elapse from the time the crop is mowed until it's at the silo. Freshly cut grass is about 3 times as heavy as well-cured hay, so a specially designed loader has been produced to handle this heavier work. An ordinary loader isn't strong enough to stand the gap. Besides being much stronger, the green crop loader has some special features which enable it to do a remarkably clean job of gathering and elevating the heavy swath. Yet it will load dry hay just as well as the regular loader, and its cost is a very little more. The quicker the crop can be chopped and ensiled, the better feed it makes, for the vitamin A content starts decreasing soon after cutting, and the longer the cut grass is exposed to the sunlight, the greater is this loss. Adding molasses is the secret of making first-class silage from legumes or grass. These crops do not contain enough sugar to cause the bacterial fermentation which takes place in corn silage, and are likely to spoil in the silo if sugar is not added. Molasses supplies the sugar in a cheap and convenient form. The amount required per ton varies with different crops and ranges from 40 pounds for grasses or cereals to 100 pounds for soybeans. The result is a highly palatable feed that keeps well in any type of silo and is much higher in protein than corn silage. Mineral and vitamin contents of the feed are also higher. Cows on this silage stay in fine condition and give a heavier flow of better milk than when fed only dry hay. The International Hay Chopper is equipped with a V-belt drive pump that draws the molasses from the barrel and delivers it evenly across the incoming forage just ahead of the knives. This prevents gumming up the apron and feeder with molasses. Only by animated drawings can we see how the belt-driven, automatically controlled pump forces the molasses through the hose to outlet pipes just behind the feed rolls. As forage is fed into the machine, the upper feed roll is raised. The clutch control on the pump is connected with the roll, and the molasses pump is automatically started and stopped as the feed roll moves up and down. When feeding ceases, the roll lowers and the pump clutch is thrown out, stopping the flow of molasses. This automatic control of the pump ensures having molasses fed onto the crop all the time any forage is going through the chopper. This method of operating the pump also prevents molasses dribbling into the cutter when no crop is going through, since stopping the pump cuts off the pressure, and it also makes it easier to regulate the amount of molasses per ton. No hand feeding is required with this machine. All that is necessary is to get the material on the feed table, the steel slatted apron, and carrier fingers will move it within reach of the feeder arms, which force it between the feed rolls. This chopper, designed to cut green or dry hay crops, is easier to feed than regular ensilage cutters, yet it will handle loose or bundled corn very effectively. So much for the process of making molasses silage. Now, let's hear from the expert again.
Molasses silage has many advantages besides those already mentioned. It requires only about 1/4 as much storage space as cured dried hay. This silo will hold twice as many tons of feed as the hay storage space in the big barn, and there's no danger of fire from spontaneous combustion. It avoids the extra work of spreading and drying after each rain, and does away with the danger of complete spoilage by mold and rot. The farmer who makes molasses silage doesn't have to worry about unfavorable weather delaying curing, so long as the second crop is smothered under the cocks or windrows. Sometimes the next cutting is half grown before the previous crop is cleared from the field. Poor haying weather is good growing weather. The first crop of hay may be ruined, and the next growth damaged by driving over it. Using grass for silage also works hand in hand with soil conservation. Where it's necessary to divert acreages from cultivated crops to check soil erosion, alfalfa can replace corn and be made into silage feed with a higher protein content. From a soil conservation angle, corn is a soil depleting crop, while alfalfa is a soil improving crop. Legumes, grasses, and cereal crops can be made into molasses silage, or any mixture of these crops may be used. The best time to cut is in the early bloom stage. One of the short feed seasons of the year is late summer and early fall. Pastures are often dried up, milk flow decreases, and later, no matter how well the cows are fed, the milk flow cannot be fully restored. No wonder the ensilage of early hay crops to provide succulent feed for this critical period is gaining in popularity. Cows clean up the last morsels of this appetizing feed, which helps keep up the flow of milk and reduces the cost of milk production the year round. Feeding dry hay usually causes plenty of dust, which is not desirable from the standpoint of cleanliness. Dairy cows are likely to refuse coarse stems in dry hay, but when preserved as silage, they're eaten without waste. With a high protein and mineral content, grass and legume silage add extra pounds and keep the beef steers healthy. This comparatively new method of preserving feed offers much to the farmers who face the problem of making good hay under unfavorable weather conditions. Molasses silage not only does away with work and the hazards of curing hay, but also prevents serious losses in feed values due to field and feeding conditions. It makes a highly palatable, nutritious, easily digested feed that is relished by the farm animals. The heavy-duty green crop loader and specially designed chopper equipped with a pump that automatically controls the molasses flow makes the job of getting the feed into the silo a speedy, simple operation. With all its advantages and the wide choice of crops that can be used, molasses silage is unquestionably destined to play an important part in preserving feed. It makes first-class feed. Animals like it, and it has not been spoiled by old man weather.